Vichikitsitam, doubtful inquiry. Etat, this, me, of me. Bravitu, just clear up. Bhagavan, powerful like the Lord. Yatha, as much as. Shabde, sound transcendental. Brahmani, Vedic literature. Nishnata, fully realized. Parasmin, in transcendence. Cha, also. Bhavan, your good self. Kalu, as a matter of fact. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Kindly clear up all these doubtful inquiries, because you are not only vastly learned in the Vedic literatures and self-realized in transcendence, but are also a great devotee of the Lord, and are therefore as good as the personality of Godhead. So it's quite a long purport, so I'll just sort of read the first two paragraphs and then speak and then go on. In the Brahma Samhita it is said that the Supreme Absolute Truth, Govinda, the personality of Godhead, although one without a second, is infallibly expanded by innumerable forms non-different from one another, and although he is the original person, he is still ever young with permanent youthful energy. He is very difficult to know simply by learning the transcendental science of the Vedas, but he is very easily realized by his pure devotees. The expansions of different forms of the Lord, as from Krishna to Baladev to Shankarshan, from Shankarshan to Vasudev, from Vasudev to Aniruddha, from Aniruddha to Pradyumna, and then again to second Shankarshan, and from him to the Narayan Purushavatars, and innumerable other forms, which are compared to the constant flowing of the uncountable waves of a river, are all one and the same. They are like lamps of equal power which kindle from one lamp to another. That is the transcendental potency of the Lord. The Vedas say that he is so complete that even though the whole complete identity emanates from him, he still remains the same complete whole. Punasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vashishyate. As such, there is no validity in a material conception of the Lord produced by the mental speculator. Thus he remains always a mystery for the mundane scholar, even if he is vastly learned in the Vedic literatures. Vedeshu durlabham adurlabham atma bhaktaho. Therefore, the Lord is beyond the limit of conception for mundane learned scholars, philosophers, or scientists. He is easily understandable for the pure devotee, because the Lord declares in Bhagavad Gita 18:54 that after surpassing the stage of knowledge, when one is able to be engaged in the devotional service of the Lord, then only can one know the true nature of the Lord. One cannot have any clear conception of the Lord or his holy name, form, attributes, pastimes, etc., unless one is engaged in his transcendental loving service. The statement of Bhagavad Gita that one must first of all surrender unto the Lord, being freed from all other engagements, means that one must become a pure, unconditional devotee of the Lord. Only then can one know him by the strength of devotional service. So here in verse 9, Parikshit Maharaj is asking Sukadev Goswami how the Lord created the phenomenal universes and how he engages his different energies and expansions to maintain and wind up the phenomenal world. So Parikshit Maharaj is very well aware that the Lord is one, whether he's acting alone or he's acting with his expanded energies. But he wants to know how inconceivable is this Lord. Therefore he's asking Sukadev to explain this, to expand it more. Because he's relishing the nectar that Sukadeva is that is coming from Sukadev's mouth, but he's teasing him out to find out more and more and become more and more absorbed. So he praises Sukadeva in 3 manners in this verse 10. First of all, he's vastly learned in Vedic literature. So we know that who is his father? His father is the author of the Vedas. So just to have that association with Vyasadeva, that constant association while he's in the womb for such a long time, then he's automatically imbibing this Vedic literature because he's hearing from the womb. So, and then the second one is that he's self-realized in transcendence. So for that reason, he was within the womb and he thought, why should I come out, Everything's good in here. Why should I come out and, have to suffer all the miseries of material nature out in the phenomenal world? So he remained within the womb. That was because he was completely transcendental and beyond any mundane conceptions. So he was very blissfully situated and remained there for 16 years. And third, he's a great devotee, which means he's as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because he fully knew the Lord's pastimes. He was relishing those pastimes. He was self-realized and he was also Krishna-realized or God-realized. So therefore he's as good as God because he's able to completely deliver that strong message from the Lord in regards to the Lord's pastimes and glories. So in paragraph 1 and 2 of this purport, Prabhupada is explaining about this business of one candle to another. So if you take a candle and you light another candle and another candle, nobody's going to say, oh, that candle's very potent, but that candle's not. Because once the candle is lit, it has the same potency. So this is Krishna's qualities also. That if he expands, that expansion, which has directly come from him, is imbued with all the Lord's potencies. There's no lessening by his expanding. And in this purport, those expansions are compared to the constant flowing of uncountable waves of rivers. They're all one and the same, and they all have equal power. So Prabhupada quotes this verse from the Ishupanishad. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamivashyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamiva Vashishyate. Which we all used to learn the Ishupanishad many years ago, so we learnt many of those verses. So the translation is that the personality of Godhead is perfect and complete. And because he is completely perfect, all emanations from him, such as the phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as complete wholes. Whatever is produced from the complete whole is also complete in itself. Because he is the complete whole, even though so many complete units emanate from him, he remains the complete balance. So we can only say that Krishna is completely perfect after hearing that shloka. So in the material world, if you have something and you take something away, automatically there's something less. As we learned in our subtraction tables when we were at school. But in Krishna's case, because he's completely perfect, anything that comes from him is also going to be completely perfect. So for the mundane scholars, Prabhupada's explaining, the mundane scholars, philosophers, scientists, they cannot understand the transcendental nature of the Lord. They've got no chance because he's beyond the limit of their conceptions. Their conceptions are mundane. They don't have any sort of key into a transcendental vision. They don't have that. So they're kind of stuck, and it's the fact that something like, years ago there were 600 and something Bhagavad Gitas around, translations, but none of them created any devotees because their realizations were just on the mental platform. But when Srila Prabhupada gave us Bhagavad Gita as it is, it's so potent that people just upon reading it like to surrender their lives to Krishna. There's so many devotees that have come along because they've read a Bhagavad Gita and they just think, what else is there? I've got to give my life to Krishna. So that's the potency of the pure devotee. But the mundane scholars and scientists, they don't have a hope. So for the pure devotees, this verse, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma, na Shotshati na Kankshati, is also quoted in Bhagavad Gita, that once one reaches the transcendental platform of Brahma Bhuta, where he sees everything equally, then there's no hankering and there's no lamenting. So that's an incredible place to be. And then Srila Prabhupada explains what the code cracker is to get to that state, and that is performing devotional service. So Srila Prabhupada is saying that unless we develop that unconditional devotion, then only then will we truly be able to understand. Like for ourselves, we have some concept of Krishna, Krishna's expansions, some concept of the spiritual world, but it's very limited because our perceptions are very much rooted in the bodily concept. Until we can move past that through that devotional service to that platform where we can see everything becomes equal, where we see the transcendental Lord's hand in absolutely everything, then at that stage there is only pure bliss. You know, when we saw Srila Prabhupada, everybody felt like there's some innate blissful spiritual qualities that are emanating from him. And that's because he was on that platform, that Brahma Buddha platform, seeing Krishna everywhere. So that's also our goal, to get to that stage where we see Krishna everywhere. And as it's explaining here, the method is to practice devotional service. So paragraph 3, Maharaj Pariksit admitted in the previous verse that the Lord is inconceivable even for the greatest learned scholars. Why then should he again request Shukadev Goswami to clarify his insignificant knowledge about the Lord? The reason is clear. Not only was Shukadev Goswami vastly learned in the Vedic literatures, but he was also a great self-realized soul and a powerful devotee of the Lord. A powerful devotee of the Lord is, by the grace of the Lord, more than the Lord himself. The personality of Godhead, Sri Ramchandra, attempted to bridge the Indian Ocean to reach the island of Lanka. But Sri Hanumanji, the unalloyed devotee of the personality of Godhead, could cross the ocean simply by jumping over it. The Lord is so merciful upon his pure devotee that he presents his beloved devotee as more powerful than himself. The Lord expressed himself to be unable to save Durvasa Muni, although the Muni was so powerful that he could reach the Lord directly under material conditions. But Durvasa Muni was saved by Maharaj Ambarish, a devotee of the Lord. Therefore, not only is a devotee of the Lord more powerful than the Lord, but also worship of the devotee is considered more effective than direct worship of the Lord. Mad Bhakta Puja Bhadika. So Sri Hanumanji was an exalted devotee of Lord Ramchandra and completely pure, and the Lord gave him the task to find Sita. He gave all the monkeys the task, but he knew that Sri Hanumanji would succeed, and he actually gave him his ring, I think, to give to Sita to prove that he had brought the ring from Lord Ram. So Lord Ram himself could have crossed the ocean. I mean, as Vamanadev, he crossed the whole universe. He took 3 steps and crossed everything, 2 steps. So definitely the Lord could have done that, but he chose to allow Sri Hanuman to appear to be greater than himself by crossing the ocean. So this is the Lord's kindness. He loves his devotees so much. He's always looking for opportunities to push them forward and glorify them. So in Durvasa Muni's case, Durvasa Muni, he's a great sage. He's son of Lord Brahma, great Prajapati, but he has this propensity to become angry. So when he went to visit Maharaj Ambarish, who's a glorious devotee, and he and his wife had just performed a year's austerity, and they just had to break their fast. When Durvasa Muni arrived, they knew, we have to take care of the sage, we can't just break our fast. So he went off, they said that they would feed him, he went off to take bath. Took a long time with his meditations, and time was ticking by. Ambarish Maharaj had to break the fast by either taking water or preferably food, but at least water as the time was slipping past. So he consulted with his brahmanas, and they said, just take a little water. So he and his wife took a little water to break their fast. But Durvasa Muni came back. He knew what had happened, and he was so angry that they had dared to take something before the guest, who was always supposed to be worshipped first, that he took some of his hairs and threw them on the ground and created this huge monster that immediately started going. A fiery monster started to head towards Ambarish Maharaj. So Ambarish Maharaj was so humble and saintly that he just sat there. He didn't run away, he sat there and took shelter of the Lord. But the Lord couldn't tolerate his devotees going to get burnt up by this fiery demon for nothing. So the Lord immediately sent his Sudarshan Chakra. So his burning Sudarshan Chakra headed towards this demon, finished him off, and then started to head to Durvasa Muni. So Durvasa Muni, unlike Ambarish Maharaj, didn't just sit there. He took off and he ran all over the planet. He ran all over the seas, the mountains, in the air, in caves. He was desperately trying to get away from this Sudarshan Chakra. Well, Sudarshan Chakra is burning hot. So he had this Sudarshan Chakra at his back, following him all the way, wherever he ran. There's this hot, sharp chakra ready to kill him. So then he thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to go take shelter of Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma is his father. He went to Lord Brahma's planet. Because he was a yogi, he could go to the different planets. And he begged Lord Brahma, save me from this Sudarshan Chakra. Lord Brahma said, what can I do? That's the Lord's chakra. I can't do anything. And then he ran to his brother, Lord Shiva, who is so powerful. Save me, save me. Once again, Lord Shiva said, oh, that's the Lord's chakra. I cannot do anything. You need to take shelter of the Lord himself. So Durvasa Muni was so powerful that he could go to the spiritual world, and he went to the spiritual world. By this time he was totally aware of the terrible offence that he created towards Ambarish Maharaj, and he burst down and offered obeisances at the Lord and begged him, I've offended your devotee, please save me. And the Lord said, well, I can't save you. The only person who can save you is Ambarish Maharaj. You need to go back and offer your obeisances to him and see if he will forgive you. So then back he went with this chakra burning behind him, and he fully paid his obeisances to Maharaj Ambarish, who was so embarrassed, and he begged his forgiveness. He took his feet and he begged his forgiveness. And Ambarish Maharaj, in humility, began to offer beautiful prayers to Sudarshan Chakra about the potency of Sudarshan Chakra, how powerful and how great was Sudarshan Chakra. So it was Ambarish Maharaj that saved Durvasa Muni. It wasn't the Lord. So once again, Krishna gave that position of being greater than him to his pure devotee, Ambarish Maharaj. And we've been just in the third canto we've been reading how the 4 Kumaras cursed the 2 doorkeepers of Lord Narayan, and when this was all going on, Lord Narayan came out, and he, was sorry that this had happened, and he told the 4 Kumaras, "If my arm is hostile to you, I will lop it off." So he was so kind of grateful to the 4 Kumaras that they'd come to Vaikuntha to see him and they'd been offended in this way. He was very sorry. So once again, and again he started to offer glories. There's many prayers there of the glories of his devotees, how dear his devotees are to him. So I was thinking also, oh yes, this is what he says in this he explains, "I am under the control of my devotees completely." This is what he says in the story of Ambarish Maharaj. "Those devotees love me and I sit in their hearts. Even devotees of my devotees are dear to me." Phew, that helps us. So in the 3rd canto, he says, when he says he'll lop off his arm, he says, "My lotus feet are sacred because I'm the servant of my devotees. Therefore Lakshmi stays with me, and therefore my lotus feet are sacred. Only because of that my devotees stay at my feet." So he's so humble, and so sort of wanting to give glory to his devotees. It's a wonderful quality of the Lord that he's very grateful. He's grateful to the devotees. You do a little service and the Lord becomes grateful. And we can see so many instances in our lives when Krishna kind of, you get this, maybe some prayer or you get this evidence that Krishna's listening and Krishna's, with you and always alert to the things that you're thinking. It's an amazing experience that devotees have. So I was thinking of some other devotees that have been empowered also by the Lord. And for example, the 6 Goswamis were empowered by Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya didn't write anything down, but he empowered those devotees, Rupa Goswami, Sanatan, etc. And they wrote beautiful books that to this day are glorified. And, Srila Prabhupada immediately, what did he translate? He translated Bhagavad Gita, which is Arjuna and Krishna, and then he translated Nectar of Devotion by Rupa Goswami in Srimad Bhagavatam. So those devotees were empowered by the Lord, and to this day Jiva Goswami is considered like the greatest scholar in India. So Lord Chaitanya, didn't take that on himself. He could have done that, but he empowered his devotees. And then we have, of course, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada did what no one could do. So like Lord Chaitanya predicted that in every town and village the chanting of my names will be heard. And he went to South India, he went to across to Vrindavan, he went to various areas, and then the rest of the world didn't get the glory, the fortune to have that personal darshan of Lord Chaitanya. But his devotees took it all over India, and Srila Prabhupada took that out and just in 11 years spread it across the globe. I mean, we just cannot conceive of the glories of Srila Prabhupada that he did that. And that was because Krishna empowered him. Just like Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, after his Guru Maharaj left, his father left, and he was feeling, it's described like a pastime of despondence, for a couple of months, because these great souls had been there, they'd been inspiring him, and suddenly he's lost their association. So one night he had a dream, and Lord Chaitanya came to him. Not only Lord Chaitanya came, all the Goswamis came. Lord Nityananda came, Advaita Prabhu, Gadadhar, Srivas, they were all there. And Lord Chaitanya said to him, why are you despondent? Can you not understand we're here with you? Do what you have to do. Do push this movement on, and we'll be with you every step of the way. You will not be in want of anything. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was so happy, and he told the devotees the next day, and then the movement started to flourish, and 64 mutts were set up throughout India. And Srila Prabhupada, it was the same thing. We saw how following Srila Prabhupada was all the mercy that he could need to push on that movement. Srila Prabhupada sent the right people to help with all the different facets of his translation, etc. Whatever he was doing, the right people were there. When there would be a need of money, I think it was Guru Das's book, they needed the rent money, and they were 2 months' rent in arrears. And someone just walked in, the rent was probably $125 or something. Someone just walked in, put down $500 and walked out. They never saw them again. So we saw that with Srila Prabhupada too. So Srila Prabhupada did something that the Lord hadn't done. So in this way, the devotee becomes very glorious. So it's kind of a dance between the devotee and the Lord, where the Lord's pushing the devotee forward, the devotee pushes the Lord forward. It's very sweet. So there's just a little bit left in the purport. The conclusion is, therefore, that a serious devotee must first approach a spiritual master who is not only well versed in Vedic literatures, but also a great devotee with factual realization of the Lord and his different energies. Without the help of such a devotee spiritual master, one cannot make progress in the transcendental science of the Lord. And a bona fide spiritual master like Shukadeva Goswami does not speak about the Lord only in the matter of his internal potencies, but also explains how he associates with his external potencies. The Lord's pastimes in the internal potency are displayed in his activities in Vrindavan, but his external potential works are directed in his features of Karana Varshai Vishnu, Garbhadakshayi Vishnu and Kshirodakshayi Vishnu. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti offers his good counsel to the interested Vaishnavas when he says that they should not be interested in hearing only about the Lord's activities like Rasa Lila, but must be keenly interested in his pastimes, in his features of the Purusha avatars, in connection with Shrishti Tattva, creative functions, following the examples of Maharaj Pariksit, the ideal disciple, and Shukadeva Goswami, the ideal spiritual master. So a bona fide spiritual master wants to sort of bless everybody by talking about all the different aspects of Krishna, because he has so many wonderful pastimes, and they're absolutely sweet and nectarian to hear about. Even Krishna's fighting, when Krishna fights, it's so magnificent, it's so wonderful. He has to come to the material world to fight the demons, because there are no demons in the spiritual world. So he creates all this pastime. Even the pastime of the cursing of those doorkeepers was just so that he could have a really good fight with some demons. So all his different pastimes, all his different leelas, they're all transcendentally pure and all transcendently complete and wonderful. So Vishwanath Chakravarti is advising us, the interested devotees, in hearing about the Lord's activities, like his Shrishti Tattva, like his creation, which is what's being asked here. Maharaj Pariksit is asking about this process of creation. So you could think, oh, well, that's kind of a little bit boring if what about the Lord's pastimes in Vaikuntha, in the spiritual world, in Goloka? They're actually wonderful. All the Lord's expansions are equal to him. All those pastimes. I think Prabhupada gave an example of a piece of sugar cane. Wherever you bite into a piece of sugar cane, it's sweet. So it's not just that one area is sweet and the rest are not so good. It's all sweet. So all Krishna's pastimes are sweet or wonderful or enlivening. I mean, you can't say the fighting is sweet, but it's so exciting. His fighting is so exciting, and it's like, people like to hear these things. Why are there so many books about fights and wars? And because there's something in people that they like this. So what better person to read about and meditate on having a fight than the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because it's going to be a wonderful fight. So all the different the different chapters of the Srimad Bhagavatam that we're going through, they're describing all different aspects of Krishna, and every single aspect is perfect and wonderful. And the spiritual master is always eager that people are informed about all of Krishna's different pastimes. In the beginning, Srila Prabhupada mostly was trying to teach the devotees, you're not that body. But even within those early classes, if you listen to those early classes, he includes so many nectarian sort of pastimes of Krishna. And the devotees didn't really know much about Krishna at the time. But, those early lectures are so relishable. They've got so much sort of, and you can hear the excitement in Srila Prabhupada's voice as he's telling these pastimes and explaining this philosophy so nicely to these new boys and girls that had come along just out of the hippie world. So, yes, so in conclusion, the Lord's pastimes, the Lord himself is perfect and complete. All his pastimes are perfectly wonderful. So whatever we read and relish about Krishna is perfect. And if we tell others about those wonderful pastimes, then you relish it even more. And our whole sort of purifying process is to hear about Krishna, to hear about the devotees. Just like the other day, we had that wonderful the pastimes of Pankajangari. It was like having a bath in nectar. Hearing all those sweet pastimes of devotees, you just felt bathed in nectar. So we hear about these pastimes, and then we let people know, we talk about them because they are exciting and they're wonderful. And then Krishna's happy because we are hearing and chanting about his pastimes and about his devotees. So it's a win-win situation to glorify the Lord, and it's a win-win situation to hear about the Lord. Okay, thank you so much. And I wonder if anybody has any comments or questions they'd like to ask. Is there a microphone? I have to talk loud.
You mentioned that in the weapon of the issue seduction was Durvasa Muni the demon to Amrish Maharaj. He wasn't afraid and he just took shelter of Krishna. And then we also hear one story where there's a mad elephant and then someone's warning everyone move out of the road, and then one person saying, "Oh Krishna, God will save me." So there's two contrasts. So one is where, how do we know when we should surrender and make the effort to counteract something?
So if there's some danger, Maharaj Ambarish just sat there and allowed that demon to come towards him without making a move. And Vaishnavi Prabhu is asking, how do we know when we should remove ourselves from danger or when we should just accept it? Okay, so when that that fiery demon was rushing towards Ambarish Maharaj, he was sitting there. There was no way he could get away. That giant fiery demon just rushed towards him. He didn't have a chance. And because his meditation was very complete. He just finished that fast, and he just thought, okay, it's my time, Hare Krishna. So he couldn't, but at the same time, like Srila Prabhupada said, if there's a fire, everybody has to remove themselves. It's not like we're rushing towards the flames or anything. But in a situation where you can't do anything, it's just like Draupadi, when she knew at one point she couldn't save herself by hanging onto the sari. So she just put up her hands, Hey Govinda, and surrendered. Because there was, she didn't have an option, it wasn't going to work. So, if we're in a situation that we can remove ourselves safely, then we do that. But, like sometimes if there's a car heading towards you in a car accident, what are you going to do? You're in the car, you just have to Hare Krishna, So I guess it's circumstance, whether there's a safe way to exit or there's not. That danger's going to come. What shall I do? I fix my mind immediately on Krishna, Hare Krishna.
When that spinning motorbike hit me in Mayapur a few years ago, and I knew there was no way, there was absolutely no way I could avoid it. I couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Couldn't go to that side, couldn't go to this side. And by Krishna's grace, I remembered Krishna. Just went, Krishna, so this is how it ends.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes you get the sense, this is it, Hare Krishna. This is what I've been practicing for all my life, Hare Krishna.